The iPhone 6S. It's the latest and greatest from the smartphone experts in Cupertino, ready to take on the competition and elevate the iPhone line once more. Does it? You'll have to watch our iPhone 6S review, shot on the iPhone 6S Plus in 4K, and find out. First, let's get this out of the way. The iPhone 6S comes in, yes, rose gold. Or pink? Metallic copper? Rosé? There have been so many different color monikers to describe Apple's newest iPhone shade that you'd think we were seeing the next generation of BuzzFeed's gold and white or black and blue debate. And having spent a week with the decidedly pinkish device, I understand why. The rose gold iPhone 6S, like its golden predecessor, takes on slightly different hues depending on how light hits that beautiful new 7000 series aluminum case. But neither shade is obtrusive, and I found the color growing on me the more time I spent with the phone. It's not just for those of a feminine styling either, if the opinions of my male friends are any indication. Aside from color, the iPhone 6S appears relatively unchanged from last year's model. I say appears because there's quite a lot going under the hood, including, well, a new, stronger hood. There's the aforementioned tougher aluminum casing, partnered with dual reinforced ION-X glass, touch and pressure-sensitive screen, vastly improved rear and front-facing cameras, a faster Touch ID sensor, super speedy A9 processor, 2 gigabytes of RAM, more cellular radios, and better Wi-Fi. Oh, and it's now more water-resistant than last year's model, though I still don't recommend sending your phone for a swim anytime soon. So where do you start when the only thing that's changed is, well, everything? Apple once boasted that the S in its S model iPhone stood for speed, so why don't we go there and start with the best example of it, the Touch ID sensor. Touch ID has always been quick. No one would use it over passcodes if it weren't. But with the 6S, Touch ID speeds through authentication like lightning. You need only brush your thumb against the sensor for an immediate unlock. I tested this year's iPhone against all previous Touch ID models, and it downright smokes them, the poor iPhone 5S especially. Siri, too. Its wit isn't the only thing snappy about it on the iPhone 6S. Apple's personal assistant is now faster at responding to your queries than ever before, listening immediately upon a home button press. And thanks to a dedicated coprocessor, you can even trigger Hey Siri whenever you want, whether your iPhone's plugged in or not. Best of all, Hey Siri is now mapped to your voice. No more accidental triggers.
Now you try.
Hey Siri, how you doing? Hey Siri, what's the weather like today?
Hey Siri, what's the weather like today?
Okay, the temperature today will rain.
You can also find that speed in apps, on websites, and when connecting to networks. For example, turning off airplane mode, a multi-second wait on the iPhone 6, is so blisteringly fast here that you'll likely be up and connected to your cellular network before you drop the control center pane. That A9 processor and extra RAM also help power the cornerstone feature of the iPhone 6S and 6S Plus, 3D Touch. I've been asking for it for years, and Apple has at last delivered. We have in our hands a pressure-sensitive screen. Not only can that screen support pressure-sensitive drawing with a finger or stylus, currently only available in the Notes app, but third-party apps are coming soon. 3D Touch expands far beyond doodles and sketches. You can access commonly used actions by pressing on app icons, peek into linked content, and press just a little bit harder to pop right into the app. It's the best implementation of shortcuts I've ever seen on a mobile device, and it's one that I see the general population picking up a lot faster than obscure keyboard commands. There's a lot of cool stuff to love about 3D Touch, a shortcut to the multitasking screen, peeking into your past camera roll photos, but I do have a few nitpicks. Tap and hold still exists. It does things like send you into edit mode on your home screens, but it's so much harder to trigger in the world of peek and pop, and without any sort of haptic feedback to let you know what you're doing. In fact, there's very little haptic feedback outside of the basic 3D Touch actions, which is a disappointment. If you tap on a non-3D Touch app on the home screen, for example, it shakes and the haptic motor sends a quick double buzz, but I'd love to see that warning incorporated across the board if I attempt to peek or pop on something un-3D touchable. Now let's talk cameras. The 6S sports a 12-megapixel rear camera sensor with improved low-light technology and local tone mapping, while the front camera gets a huge boost in the form of a 5-megapixel front-facing sensor and faux flash option called Retina Flash. And of course, there's live photos. When it comes to well-lit shots, the iPhone 6S's rear camera and that of the iPhone 6 are very competitive. Where the 6S shines, however, is in harsh HDR lighting or low-light conditions. It attempts to brighten and smooth even the darkest shots and corners. Panoramas, too, have better and softer lighting detail. If you're into selfies, you'll love the new 6S front camera. Up from 1.2 megapixels last year to a full 5 megapixels with low light processing, it simply blows away front-facing photos and video from previous generation iPhones. Retina Flash, which illuminates the 4.7-inch screen when you snap a selfie, gives just a little bit of extra light on your faces when photographing a scene without underexposing the background. It's not the best flash in the world by a long shot, but it's a nice bonus. And whether you're shooting front or back, you now have access to Live Photos, Apple's new way of making moving pictures. Snap a photo with the Live Photos indicator on, and in addition to a 12 or 5 megapixel image, you'll also get a 3 megabyte 45 frame video with 22.5 frames captured before and after your original shot. Gimmicky, GIF-like, absolutely, but also a lot of fun, especially if you're into shooting kids, dogs, or selfies. But enough about faux moving pictures. Let's talk about the real video star here, 4K. Yes, the new iPhone can shoot a 3840 by 2160 pixel frame, and yes, it can even handle dual stream editing of those 4K shots in iMovie. That's better than my 2-year-old iMac. It barely knows what to do with all those pixels. Let's get one thing straight, though. 4K isn't going to create revolutionary imagery of your family reunions. It's simply a bigger picture with more detail. It's also stuck shooting 30 frames per second to 1080p recording 60, so you won't have extra movement detail in your film, and its files are gigantic, 375 megabytes per minute. But for anyone who regularly shoots video on their iPhone, 4K offers a lot of latitude for post-production cropping and zooming, and will come as a great additional tool in their toolbox. My big camera bummer? The iPhone 6s still doesn't get the optical image stabilization of its big brothers, the 6 and 6s Plus. Come on, Apple. If the camera's going to stick out from the casing anyway, you might as well put in that extra hardware. Additionally, slow-mo is still stuck at a paltry 720p if you want a full 240 frames per second shot, though low light and coloration are much better. The iPhone 6s is an incredible upgrade for pretty much anyone with an iPhone 5s or earlier. The difference in speed alone is more than worth your purchase. If you've got an iPhone 6 or 6 Plus, the decision is harder. If you're still on contract, I'd wait until 2017, unless 4K video and 3D Touch are important enough to you to pay full price. If you're on Android and considering a switch, it's all about the ecosystem. Do you want to live in a world of iOS apps, iCloud compatibility, and OS X interaction? If so, the iPhone 6s is the best device yet for entering Apple's world.